Alright, today's video is actually going to be something different than what I normally cover, which is mainly gaming. But I decided to put up a tutorial video here just to help out those who want to eventually start maybe coding a mod or doing whatever they do on the computer, just to help them code. I will be including things in this video that will basically work throughout all coding software, basically no matter what. This is just people to help people understand the basics without necessarily having to pull out a textbook, or if they don't understand what's in a textbook, this will kind of help them get along. Because it's really good, I found out, to learn from a teacher or a person rather than just reading. Because how someone reads it and how what's in the book includes might not be important, or it might exclude a few keywords that will prevent a person from understanding. So this is my thing, just to help people. First off, we're gonna just look at the first line of code. We're gonna include something. This is C++, so this is not how you include something. Oh my gosh, something from say Java. This is just how C++ works. Basically, in C++, you basically all code. You don't, not necessarily all code, but for standard basic stuff, we need to include the IOStream file, and inside that, we need to use the standards, standard namespace. This is just a copy and paste thing. Basically, you have to include it in everything you do in order to use the basic functions, unless you write it yourself, which is a lot more complicated, and well, it's already there for you, so you might as well include it. We're just gonna skip this line of code for now, because we'll get back to that in a bit. And int main, this is the second most important thing to include. Int main is your main function for your file. It will basically run everything inside your program. You basically, if you have another file or you include it inside the main, it's very important to have main, otherwise you won't run. These parentheses are there for functional function things that aren't actually needed for the main function, but just for a standard template thing, it's required. These brackets right here include everything that's in the function. Anything outside of that won't run as the function runs, and anything inside of it is necessary. Now, this int part here is required because the main function by default needs to return a value to tell you and the program that's running, in this case Microsoft Visual C++, if the function succeeded in running or not. Now, 0 symbolizes it. When we return 0, it symbolizes that the function worked. We can move on from here. If it returned 1, however, that basically symbolizes, oh, something went wrong, and we will not execute this any farther. We're done, skis. It's gone. Stop here. No farther. Which basically, in main, once you hit return 0, you're done with your program anyways, and it will stop running. Return is something more complicated. It basically exits the function with this value, and this value is integer called 0. So yeah, that's enough explaining of that. Now to get down to the other basics, we will have a variable here. If you don't know what a variable is, basically something that stands for something else. Yes, it's that simple. We could have this say noob on it. Int noob equals 0, and we'll have a variable called noob which equals 0. That's that. In this case, we'll have an int equaling 0, or something called int equals 0. Now, this declaration is what type of variable we're going to have. In this case, we're going to have an int type variable, which stands for integer, if I didn't explain that already. And we can only shove integers inside that variable. Now we can declare it as a float. Say we declare a float named nothing as 1.2. In C++, it's actually not needed to put a value immediately, but in some languages it is. So in Java, specifically, I'm pretty sure in Java you need to declare it when you declare it, or put a value in it when you declare the value, whether you put it as 0, just as a placeholder. Now, a float, if you didn't know, basically involves a decimal place anywhere along the line. So it's 0.2 or you have 0.02. It changes where the decimal is at. It's very important. There's other things like you can call a double, which is a little bit bigger of a float. Now, what I mean by that is variables can only hold a certain size, a certain amount of numbers. You can't. An int isn't endlessly big. It can only be declared as X amount of size. Now you can look it up to figure out what size you need, but in most cases you won't usually go over an int unless you're doing precise calculations. Even then, you won't need anything bigger than a double. Doubles are just really easy to use, but it's not necessary. Once you declared an int or a float, you can rechange the value later. This is what I mean by, and C++ it's not necessary because it assumes you're gonna assign a value to it later, if not now. And so in this case, we're changing any int from 0 to 2. Now this equal signs here is actually deceiving. It's not equals. It's saying we're shoving 2 into any int, which in this case will work. It will succeed in doing so. Now if it were not to succeed, say 0.1, it wouldn't do that. It would actually call something called truncated or depromote into a normal integer, which is a bit more complicated. I'll get that to later, not this video, but another video maybe. But basically you don't have to worry about it. Just make sure what you're putting into a variable is what you're declaring it as. I put an int into an int variable. I put a float into a float. It's basic that. Now, basic function workings. Here I have a function named this, and I also have it here. Now, what is this, I say? You might ask. Well, here, this is the saying for C++ at least, that I'm going to create eventually a function that will return an int and will require an int. That's basically all it says. In this case, in the main function, I'm calling that function basic int function, and I'm shoving into it any int. Now, this is going back to main. We're not shoving anything into main, so we don't have to worry about it. Now we come down to another scope, which is a scope refers to basically these brackets here. Anything inside that brackets is a part of that scope. If it's outside of it, it won't recognize that variable. It's basically non-existent. So in order to use it, we have to declare a new variable of the same type as we declared up here. So once we shove it, we redeclare it, and from there we can do anything from it. We could add d+1. This is one way of adding. There are many different ways, like you can say d plus equals 1 or d++. Oh, something also I forgot to mention, the reason why there's semicolons at the end of everything is that's basically saying this statement's done, time to move on to the next one. It will give me an error code if I don't have that. This is basically just so that the compiler can know what to do and what not to do, when to do it, when to stop. It's, yeah, you understand. If you don't, you leave a comment and I'll answer. So that's it. Once we return the variable, we will return a variable into this. Now this is actually, I believe, will actually give me an error because no, it's not. Now if you notice here, nothing, because I declared it without assigning variable, it actually says something. Warning, nothing, unreferenced local variable. I'm not declaring this as anything. I mean, I'm not putting any value into it, so it's just giving me a warning. In Java, or I believe it's Java, it will actually not let you run the code completely. Because when you actually try to use it without giving a value, it will come up with an error and your life will go to hell. Trust me, you just got to learn to work with the program. But if we say any int is equal to basic function int, Now, it's not actually this variable, or oops, this variable is not actually equal to the function, but to the value that is returned. So if we want to, if we have a giant code, some randomizing code or something, and we want to randomize the number based on what we're passing into it, this is how we do it. Yeah, you can. This is very important to learn. It's just you can mess around with this all day. And then system pause is something I'm using to pause it so you can actually see the code. Without it, you won't see that. You would just go, let me comment it out. It would just bring up the program and close instantaneously because as soon as it finishes, it closes. Done deal. So we're just pausing it, but don't try to use this function as least as possible. It's not good. There's more complicated and much smoother ways to use it. Don't try not to use system pause as much as possible. Most people will yell at you if you're in a job for using system pause. Other than that, that is pretty much the basics. If you want to know what different types of variables you can declare, you can just basically look online, look in a textbook. You'll get a huge list that I'm about to bring up. You can declare strings, which would be words. Also, oh yeah, I should show you one more thing, which is how to display something on the screen. That's also pretty basic, and I think it's worthy. Cout on this. Mind you, this is basically only for C++. Java will have, actually, because it's different, I'll make another video of it. I'm sorry, I misled you. Next video will include how to do more complicated things, but it's still very basic. This is basically any type of code you want. You'll basically look like this. I'm just showing you a few things how it works. So I'll see you guys next time on my channel. I hope you guys pop by, and bye.